Hey everybody, welcome back to another Overwatch 2 video, and this one is going to be a little bit more of a discussion video. Now, I wanted to make this video with, some real gameplay, live gameplay footage in the background. Unfortunately, I've been really ill for the last week, including this morning. I'm feeling pretty rough right now, so I've decided just to go through some of my old clips in the replay viewer and just talk about some answers to this big guy. He's been out in quick play now for a week, and he has somewhat divided the community, and divided it in such a way of, this hero is pretty fun to play as, but not that fun to play against. He pumps out a lot of damage. To give you an example, I was watching, I think a day or two after the release into quick play of Mauga, and Craggy, a top, let's be honest, like a top 50 EU DPS player was playing him, went to a 3-map control game and put out 35k damage as Mauga. A tank, by the way. He can absolutely shred people. But, as we discussed in the previous video where I was playing him, he's a pretty selfish tank. It almost reminds me of like the Zenyatta of the tank role. This is your MVP, sorry, not MVP, VIP, I was right. He is El Presidente. If you're running a Mauga team comp, you have to play around the Mauga, and the rewards are huge amounts of damage, potentially. Similarly, Zen can pump out a lot of damage from the support role, but he really needs like a caretaker to just make sure he doesn't get dove and obliterated, especially in this current world where Tracer is extremely strong right now. So I want to just talk through some of the matchups that I think are good into Mauga, because I've seen a lot of people complaining, saying like, I do agree with this to some degree, that Mauga maybe is a little bit overtuned, but I don't mind a new hero being overtuned on release. It's a new hero, right? You want to see the new hero do things. But it is very awkward to play against this hero, especially if you're in the tank role. And what has often devolved, at least in quick play, is to play these Mauga v Mauga matchups. And unfortunately for the Mauga matchup, it is extremely boring. Like, you're just shooting the enemy Mauga, continuously healing off him, he's healing back off you. You're pumping out these ridiculous damage numbers, but like the game state isn't exactly changing. And anytime you switch off to go for a squishy, and if that Mauga's still focusing you, then you're losing the Mauga 1v1. It just feels really like awkward. So I want to go through some other tanks that do well into Mauga, and then maybe some tanks that I don't think do so well into Mauga, full stop. There's 5 tanks I've got on my list here that I think are pretty good into Mauga. I think there are 3 of them in particular where you can play them with a little bit of a lack of coordination, which you might expect on the ladder. So this is something you can pretty much go mano-a-mano with Mauga to some degree, and you can try and win that 1v1 rather than relying on your team, to do anything. You might have a hint. One of them is Ramattra. I don't think he's the best matchup into Mauga, but you can get a lot of advantage from him. In fact, I'm going to show a clip of me playing Ramattra into Mauga in a little bit once I've gone through some of this discussion of the tanks. What is the advantage of Ram? So the advantage of Ram is the one weakness Mauga has, or the one particular weakness Mauga has, is that he suffers at very long range poke, or even like mid-range poke, to be honest with you. And Ram, in his omnic form, can actually do a lot of damage to Mauga from a distance. Now, bear in mind, in the training range, I think these only have the open Q health, right? So this is like 350 health Mauga, or something like that, maybe 400. But either way, you can poke out Maugas from a distance in omnic form with your staff. And the staff is being buffed in this patch as well, so you can actually do some pretty good damage, and you can farm ults off this guy. The other thing Mauga wants to do is he wants to set you on fire so that he gets the crit damage, and he can heal off it. And what you can do from a distance is, after you, like, as soon as you get into the burning state where he would heal off you, drop a shield. This is the most important thing for this matchup, and I think this is the skill check of the Ramattra matchup, and why I think it's not quite as good as some of the other ones that I'll talk about in a moment. But if you can deny him the heal off that and you're just still poking him, Mauga will have to duck back into cover. And ideally by that point, you can then duck back into cover, you can get healed, and you can kind of just trade off like this. Ideally with you gaining more ult charge than the Mauga, and you're probably burning out more of his cooldowns, to be completely honest with you, because if he's trying to heal with his E as well, then the shield just counters it. It's the great counter to his E ability, where it's like the mass team heal and damage reduction. Just put a shield down, just give him one of these. If he charges at you and charges through the shield, just do some shield dancing, right? And that is a pretty effective way of dealing with the Mauga. After your shield is gone, because, I mean, as you saw there, the shield doesn't last forever with Ramattra, and it's on a pretty long cooldown, to be fair, compared to some of the other shields, which, you know, are permanent or stuff you can flash. You can go into this mode. Now, I will say, what's this actually called? Nemesis? Yeah, Nemesis form. You have to be super, super careful in Nemesis form. The temptation is just to, you know, start punching him and all of that, and you always think that you've got your cross-arm move to protect yourself. You will get shredded in cross-arm mode. What is it actually called? The block. Very imaginative. I call it cross-arm. Because you're taking crit damage in that mode, because you'll be burning, you'll be taking crit damage, it still absolutely wrecks you. But not as much as, you know, some of the other tanks get wrecked by it. So if you're in block mode and one of your supports is pocketing you to some degree, and you're probably expecting the Mauga to be being babysat by his own support, you can definitely trade off that ability. So basically you're trading your charge for your block, and ideally when you come back out of block, you'll be 1, alive, and 2, you'll have your shield back up. You can put your shield back up, and you kind of rely on your team to have done something to the enemy Mauga during all of this. I also found myself in this matchup sometimes, like the Mauga would come in, he would charge me, I would shield dance, I would use this form, I would literally just stand like this, in front of him, protecting my team. Just bait all the Mauga's cooldowns onto me. That's all I did as my job. Let my team try and beat the rest of them, and we'll come back and deal with Mauga later on. I will just take his entire attention, because if you're building the team around Mauga, a bit like, if you can trade 1 into a pharmacy comp, you're kind of trading 2 for 1, that's fine. Your other team is going, you know, 4v3 then. I kind of treat the same thing with Mauga. He almost certainly has an Ana up his backside with the rifle pointed right between his sweet cheeks, just pumping him full of healing. If I can trade my abilities for that 2v1, I found more often than not the rest of my team, the other 4 members of my team, either they would just, you know, anti the Mauga and, you know, kill him because he's come close range, or they would beat the rest of the team, and that was a pretty efficient means to do it. But yeah, sometimes he would come in, I would use my shift form. Bear in mind you get extra health and you get extra armor now, because he changed how Ramattra's armor work. I would then push my ult and literally just stay in shield mode. I would literally use it for more health, and you know, when you come out of your ultimate eventually, I've got shift mode back up again. So I can shield dance, shift, and I literally would just eat all the Mauga damage. There's a game that sadly I didn't save, and I should really have pinned it, but sadly it's gone off my replay now, where the enemy Mauga had 13.5k damage, and I had 13.8k blocking damage or mitigation. Coincidence? I think not. I literally just ate all the Mauga damage, and we won the matchup. So I think Ramattra's a pretty good matchup. It does rely on your team a little bit to, you know, have the monitors switched on, but you can definitely take his attention. I think taking the Mauga's attention as a tank, if you're not relying on too much resources, is almost always worthwhile. Now, the tank that I think best matches into him, and you can kind of just go off your own skill and kind of let your team do what they want, is Sigma. And we kind of suggested this was going to be the case when Mauga was released. The hero doesn't do great at long-range poke. And Sigma is the ultimate poking tank. I can poke at pretty long distance, fairly akin to Mauga. Now, he did have he's had his spread reduced and his drop-off increased. So he can actually, like, you know, poke me down at this range. But what Mauga can't do is this. Put up a shield for 700 health. Now, the shield has been nerfed. The regeneration rate is a bit slower. But even so, and I will show an example of this again in my replay view in a moment, that Mauga just can't deal with Sigma. Like, your entire cooldown kit just shuts Mauga up. And he's one of the few heroes that can actually just live through the cage fight ult. And again, I will hopefully show one of these off later. Mauga runs at you, shield up. Okay, better shield than this maybe, but shield dance around the Mauga so he can't get the heal off you as easily, he can't get the burning, he can't get the crit damage. If you do start burning and your shield is getting destroyed, just put shift in front of him. You eat his abilities, hopefully your shield will start recharging. If it's not, rock the guy. He is huge. He's so hard to miss the rock on, especially at close range. That stuns him for a moment, he stops healing for a moment. You might recover from your crit damage, and by this point your shield is probably back up again. Or at least to some degree. And ideally your team will be helping you. One of the nice things that, and again it comes down to this combo, is I've got an example where the Mauga cage fights me and I have literally all of my cooldowns up. And he goes on me, I just shield in the middle of his cage fight, my team can use the shield as well. He is shredding it, that's fine. He shreds the shield, and literally he decides, I'm not going to fight the Sigma anymore. It's not worth my while, I'm wasting my ult on Sigma. I'm going to go for the Ana that's in the cage as well. And literally I follow him around the cage with this up, and I gain 350 health off him. So then I'm like, okay, I go mano a mano with you now. I've got 750 health. I rock him, and basically the cage fight, I think he does kill the Ana eventually, but it literally, he pumps his entire resource pool into it, and his team's like pocketing him, and we win the fight eventually, but it's just a miserable matchup into Sigma for Mauga. And it's something that I think you can, if you play your positioning right, especially if you can take high ground, because one of the other things that Mauga can't really do is contest high ground. He just has the worst day imaginable. The other tank that I think does pretty decently into him, but not necessarily fantastic, but you can kind of go off and do your own thing, is Zarya. So, Zarya has double bubbles. If you use those bubbles on any target that's burning, you can cleanse the burning, which means my Mauga isn't healing. And because this hero pumps out incredible amounts of damage, you can pretty easily get to 100 energy. And at 100 energy, if you get a pocket, you can shred the Mauga. It is a little bit of, you know, he's like the unstoppable force meets an unstoppable force in terms of the damage numbers. You can put out insane numbers. And eventually the Mauga will probably just start going on your backline, instead in which case you have to use your bubbles selflessly, not selfishly, instead to keep them alive. But it's a pretty good, it's a decent matchup for you, right? I think you can win the 1v1, and it relies on pretty little team coordination. But if you do have the team coordination as well to, you know, maybe you play with a Reaper and bubble the Reaper in, and the Reaper can sit up to close to the Mauga, yeah, you can do a lot of work with Zarya. The other two heroes, so one of them is a little bit reliant on team coordination. This is Junker Queen. Junker Queen's in a really strong state right now, and that's part of the reason why I've said that they're a good hero into Mauga. The spread damage has been reduced, and if you hit this Mauga, you can kind of shred him, and with the hitbox size of Mauga, you're pretty much hitting him all the time. You can throw knives and you're pretty much going to hit every single time. Off your adrenaline rush, you basically guarantee that you're always keeping your healing upkeep, either with just knife jabbing, throwing the knife, axe swings, all good stuff for Junker Queen. So she can kind of be in the front line temporarily with Mauga. Now, she can't stay there, even though, you know, she has this healing. The Mauga will out-damage her and will out-heal her as well. You do have quite a slender hitbox for a tank, though, so it's a little bit awkward if the enemy Mauga hasn't quite got the aim. If the enemy Mauga has my aim, you're probably fine as Junker Queen. You could just ADS strafe and you will never get crits and you will never get healing. But one of the nice things about this matchup, sorry, I just went through puberty, is that if you just ignore the Mauga, he can't really peel off dives. And what is rush but horizontal dive, right? So I play Junker Queen, and I'll show this, reluctantly I'll show this with my terrible aim, again in a moment, that in some of the matchups, we would just ignore the Mauga. It does require a bit of coordination. It would be nice to run like a Lucio with it. You do your commanding shout, give everyone a big team boost, your Lucio amp speeds, just run past the Mauga and kill whoever is supporting them. If there's an Ana and they're not on the high ground, just charge that Ana down and shred them. Use your knife to disposition them and kill them. And Mauga can't really do anything about that. Sure, his E does give health increase for everyone else that does damage as well, But in my experience, that wasn't enough to keep the targeted enemy alive. It's not a good enough appeal ability. The other nice thing about Junker Queen is that one of Mauga's weaknesses, because he needs this extra healing from the crit damage, if you use your ult on him, he gets antied and then he can't heal. So if you run like Junker Queen, Lucio, Anna, you can kind of keep the Mauga on chain anti-heal. And you can just still poke this guy. And you could, at least in my experience, I was building Junker Queen ults pretty goddamn quickly. Quicker than the Mauga was building his ults at the very least. And I think this is just generally a pretty solid matchup. Also, as I said, Junker Queen is pretty good against other things. Like, I wouldn't necessarily recommend Ramattra against other team comps. I don't think it's particularly protected against that. Sigma's also pretty decent, but he has been nerfed recently, so I'm not sure either Sigma would hold up to, especially like a dive comp. Junker Queen comp, though, can definitely beat the Mauga comp and can definitely contest the dive comp as well. Especially if there is like some coordination lacking. The final hero that I think does well, and I wouldn't super recommend this, is Reinhardt. The reason why I would say I wouldn't recommend this is it's basically the same as Ramattra and Sigma. He can't really deal with shields, he can't get his healing off the shields. So if you just play as Rectangle Man, then you can kind of just isolate the Mauga and maybe get, you know, like a Reaper or a Mei up close to him and just rush him down and shred him that way. The reason why, I keep just saying the reason why, it's not a fun matchup though for the Reinhardt. You're probably never going to swing on the Mauga because you will just die. As soon as your shield is broken, Mauga destroys you, right? Even with your, is it like 250 armor that Rein has? You will just get obliterated, so it's a matchup where literally you can't drop your shield, so you're just going to be running around, ideally with a Lucio, like this the entire game. Your team will thank you, you will have a pretty unfun time. In terms of tanks that are real bad into the matchup, I would 100% not recommend you pick Orisa. I think Orisa is the best matchup for Mauga. Sure, this hero can poke at range and probably can poke at a larger range than Mauga. Like, look at these damage numbers, they're insane. However, Fortify. Let's read this. Reduces all damage taken, blah, 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 blah. You used to not be able to get crit in it. I think you can actually get crit in Fortify now, right? But it's a big damage reduction. Mauga, if he sets you on fire, crits you, even in Fortify. And Mauga, if he gets up close to you, renders Fortify useless. You will die. You will get shredded. And if you watch my previous video where I play Mauga, again in quick play after the buffs, I think the first game I play, someone swaps Orisa, and literally can't contest me, because all they can do is this. And this doesn't last long enough. The Fortify is literally worthless. Like, I'm just burning them through Fortify, and who cares about the Javelin thing, right? As long as I can just keep pounding out damage, I'm fine. And even once you get your ultimate, which puts you into Fortify, the Mauga can charge out of it and not be hindered by it, turn around, and will just shred you through the Fortify, so you just die in your ultimate as well. I think Orisa is a really, really weak matchup into Mauga, and they kind of operate in similar niches, that they are ranged poke tanks that can kind of brawl to some degree. The problem is at the brawl level, Orisa 100% loses it. And if you want to play the range poke where Orisa maybe gets the advantage there, you might as well just play Sigma at that point, or even Ramattra and have a shield. Other matchups I didn't have particularly fun with was Roadhog. I don't know if I would say this was a bad matchup, so to speak, but you just don't want to ever hook the Mauga, really, because if you hook the Mauga, he's like, thank you, buddy. You've also got a big hitbox. I will shred you, I will heal off you, and basically I would hook the Mauga in, you know, I'd pigpen him as well, and then he would turn around and obliterate my anus, and I would just do this and run away from him. Of course, you probably don't want to hook the enemy tank, but it just felt really unfun. And the other thing about it is you kind of hope that Whole Hog would counter Pigpen. Sorry, the Cage Fight ability, not Pigpen. But in my experience, the Mauga can win that burst of damage off. Maybe you do lose your ult in this, because the ultimate for Mauga has like 2,000 hit points, I think, and Whole Hog, I think in its entirety, does like 5,000 damage. It's insane, the damage on Whole Hog. If you actually look at the raw numbers, it's just so diffuse, the damage spread, that you kind of don't notice it. But if you Whole Hog someone from like here, they just get obliterated. Anyway, but yeah, if you run something like the Ana Kariko comp, which is typically what you run with Roadhog, like Mauga, to be honest with you, Hog is a pretty selfish tank, right? He needs a bit of babysitting. If you get a Kariko with the Hog ult, then sure, you'll beat him in the cage ult. The Nano will probably be enough to beat the cage ult. But you're trading 2-for-1 ults then, and I think the neutral game for Hog is not strong enough to warrant running him into the Mauga. But I'm sure really good Hog players will just ignore him. The final hero that I'm going to mention on the bad tank matchup is Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball is in a really rough spot right now. He's in a situation where he was a hero that was clearly designed for 6v6 Overwatch, where things were a little bit more grouped up, I suppose is the word, where you could get big advantage from your slam and your adaptive shields. Now you're in 5v5 and people play almost more like a death matchy-like role. There's a bit more flanking going on, a little bit more of the onus on DPS is to win 1v1s. You can't really have Wrecking Ball in a strong state with the slam combo because he would just be an assassin. Like, he would be like Tank Tracer. So he's in a bit of a weak spot anyway, so I wouldn't generally recommend playing Wrecking Ball. But in particular, Wrecking Ball is a bad matchup into Mauga because in your ball form, you can't be crit. Your crit hitbox is inside, the ball itself. And this lets you tank a little bit of damage and, get out of fights. Mauga, though, if he sets you on fire, he crits you in ball form. So you do get giga shredded by Mauga if you're up close to him. So again, and I'm going to say this about the dive tanks now. Generally, dive tanks do not want to 1v1 the Mauga. You can't frontline the Mauga. It's not possible. You will lose the front line. But more than any of the other dive tanks, Ball is very susceptible to Mauga. So I would strongly not recommend playing you into that matchup. I think you will lose the matchup. I think in general the dive tanks don't do particularly great. D.Va can't really eat through all of the resources from Mauga because it's primary fire. So, and they've got like, 350 ammo right now, or 300. So the Mauga can just like bait your DM and then shoot you afterwards and can kind of shred D.Va. But obviously you don't want to do this mano-y-mano when you're doing dive style. I don't think D.Va is a giga bad pick. It's just, not great. Winston gets shredded by Mauga. You don't want to dive the Mauga, you want to go for the backline. If I was going to pick a dive tank, though, I would probably pick Doomfist. Now, Doomfist, again, you do not want to fight the Mauga. You will lose the matchup. I'm not going to show this game, but I played a game, again, this was quick play, obviously, into Mauga Sojourn Tracer, and I would power block after using I'd punch someone, I would run away, I would then power block. The Mauga would shred me because in power block, you're getting crit when you're on fire, and it literally just burns you down. And Mauga Sojourn Tracer would burn me down through power block from 300 health. I couldn't break the power block, I couldn't punch out of it, I would just instantly die. But, on the other hand, this tank is pretty mobile. A bit like when we just had the recent Bastion meta, one of the reasons why teams that like dive, aka, Team China, aka Hangzhou Spark, they played Doomfist was the power block did allow this hero to live through big amounts of burst damage. So as long as you can, block off damage and then escape around the corner, so you just have to play it a lot smarter, positionally, you definitely can get value from this dive. And as I mentioned earlier, Tracer is in an insane spot right now in terms of damage. So it might honestly be worth, the juice may be worth the squeeze on this. If you can enable your Tracer with a dive comp, if you're going to pick a dive tank, I would pick Doomfist into the Mauga comp. Anyway, what would I say is the Mauga comp, I guess, is the final thing we should talk about, because I've really mentioned the tank 1v1 matchup. What about some of the other heroes? Well, I will say, because this hero is super, super selfish, you can kind of get away with a lot of the damage heroes. There's very few that I would say are... They're good with other tanks, but not great with Mauga, so to speak. There's obviously some matchups where if you're going in poke v poke and you're running double sniper, if the enemy team is running double sniper with a Sigma, you're probably going to want to have a Sigma matchup, right? You would like the shield. Similarly, if you're running a super aggressive dive comp, maybe you would want a Doom or a Winston, especially if there's a lot of high ground to contest, because the Mauga can't contest the high ground. I think one of the nice damage heroes, though, that you can get, if you're really looking for the true synergy with Mauga, you want to use stuff that is based around his Cardiac Overdrive is the ability, where allies take reduced damage and heal. So you want something like almost like a brawl type comp. So I suggested that maybe you could run something like a Mei, wall someone off, charge in maybe with like, you know, your brawl comp, and you're taking a big damage reduction, you're also healing, and Mei's primary fire does a decent amount of damage. Do I think Mauga Brawl is necessarily the best form of the Mauga comps? Who knows? Like, it's going to take a lot of iterating upon, but I think it's pretty rare that you're going to be unhappy to pick a Mei with it. In terms of heroes, I would say in the DPS role that you're not happy to pick with Mauga. The only one I've really come down to, sure, you could say like Junkrat, because Junkrat's not in a great spot. You could say Pharah as well, because Pharah also demands a lot of resources. But I've actually mentioned Bastion for kind of the similar reason I just mentioned Pharah. I think Bastion typically wants a lot of resources as well, especially big healing resources, so that he can pump out damage in his turret mode. If you've got both Mauga and Bastion, you can't really put all your resources into both heroes. You're gonna kind of bastardize one of your heroes, and it's just not gonna feel particularly good. You do want some DPS that are a little bit self-sufficient. Again, for example, I honestly say something like Soldier could work. You don't necessarily need to run this brawl comp. The Soldier can just live on his own island, just flank on his own, put down the healing station when he needs it, and just let your Mauga, you know, be the forefront of the spear, right? In terms of support role, supports I think are good with this hero. I would say Anna is probably the most sensible one, especially if you're in the Mauga v Mauga matchup. You will want to anti the enemy Mauga because he can't get his heal, and then it gives your Mauga big advantage. Also, even though you can't sleep him during his charge, he's a pretty large hitbox, so you can sleep him from range. If he gets close up to you after he's charged, you can sleep him then and just run away from him. And the Mauga feels pretty stupid, right? Nano works pretty nicely with the Mauga, especially in the cage ult. Then you're almost guaranteeing, like, whoever's in the cage is going to die. And the damage mitigation is also pretty useful for the Mauga. In terms of supports, again, I wouldn't pick with him. Mercy, I think, is a really bad pick with Mauga, because you can't heal. Your single target healing, is not enough to keep your Mauga alive. It also isn't in your Valkyrie state. There are just better single target healers in the game, right? Sure, you can damage boost, but I think at that point you would prefer to run like a Baptiste or something where you can just put your own damage out when the Mauga is at full health. I just don't think this hero really helps the Mauga at all. And also, you don't really want to get up close with the Mauga when it starts brawling with Mercy. You'll just get destroyed, right? Other supports I've also decided to mention on this. Zen is an extremely greedy pick. I think it's too greedy. Obviously, if you discord someone and the Mauga is shredding with the cannons, they just evaporate, right? However, I mentioned Zen is Mr. El Presidente. Normally, other support, and sometimes even a DPS, wants to have an ability that can help peel off dives of some sort or any DPS that come close to you. And you can't really justify having another support babysitting this guy and the Zen guy. It's just, you get stretched too thin. If you're completely dominating, I'm sure like Zen Bap could potentially work, and maybe you run like a Cassidy who just babysits the Zen. If a Tracer tries to get up close, you just hinder them and try and, you know, shoot them off. But I think there are just better situations. Like, I'd probably prefer to run even Anna Baptiste, like the ultimate, like, big healing support comp, than have a Zenyatta. In terms of heroes against the Mauga, I think the best DPS hero against the Mauga is not Ashe. Ashe is pretty good, though. It's Sojourn. Sojourn absolutely shreds Mauga, especially if you can get some like high ground to play from. The Mauga can't contest you. The hitbox is humongous on this hero. You basically have permanent rail, and I tried to play, again, I think this was on the previous episode, I tried to play Mauga into, it was actually Soldier, I think, but the same holds true. But I tried to play into one of these longer range hit scans, and they were on the high ground, and I literally couldn't do anything. I was literally saying, like, I can't do anything. I need my DPS to contest this guy. There's nothing I can do about it. Just sit a mile away, just keep charging rail, kill the squishies, charge rail again, kill the squishies. Whoops. Ignore that. Look, he died. So yeah, I think Sojourn, Soldier, even something like Farah, who I've actually put down as the bad hero. If you stay far enough away, like, what's the Mauga going to do? Nothing, right? Well, as I said, I think Farah is a bit of an awkward matchup into the Mauga. You probably want to just keep your distance and just poke from massive amounts of range. Like so. But the Mauga's obviously got hit scan abilities. The burn feels pretty sad. If you've not got a Mercy, you're probably just going to get chipped down and chipped out of fight, so you can't really do anything. And even if you have the Mercy, the burn from a Mauga can kind of overwrite the Mercy self-heal. So you can just chip the Mercy down, your Mercy will die, and then eventually you will die. So I don't think it's necessarily a matchup that stops you doing what you want to do, but it does give you like a timer that you can't necessarily poke forever unless you're poking at an insane range. Because eventually you will get burnt out of your resources and will die to the Mauga comp. On the flip side though, you're not dealing with any damage mitigation abilities, so you do have free reign of the rest of the heroes to do something. But if they're running like Mauga, Soldier, Anna or something, like a triple hit scan like that, you're probably going to have a bad time, right? Interestingly, and this might indicate a bit of poor design, I'm not entirely certain yet. I think heroes good against him, Anna. Good with him, good against him. Anti-sleep. We mentioned it. He doesn't like it, right? And supports, I think, are also bad against him. Mercy. I don't think the hero can keep him up on the team. And on the opposite side of things, I don't think she can keep other people up. Sure, again, if you're playing with a Soldier and you're just, you're damage boosting them from range, or it's something like Kevster or something, it probably doesn't matter, right? They're just going to shred the enemy team. But it's just not a particularly fun, engaging matchup, I suppose. Yeah, that's kind of it. You don't want to be, like, Guardian Angeling to people that he's caged, because you'll die in the cage as well. I just think there are better supports out there that can do more than Mercy can. And this might then go back to, like, I've seen a lot of people complain about Mauga saying it's not a particularly fun hero. I think a situation where a tank hero, especially, is the supports that they play with are also the supports that, like, are good against them, and vice versa. If the support's not good with them and not good against them, it kind of makes me think they're in a bit of a weird spot design-wise. Anyway, I just want to now go to a few quick examples of me playing against the Mauga. And we're not going to go through this too much, in part because I'm real bad. So, where are we looking here? Let me look at my timestamps. So, Dorado. So this is a game, and I'm going to cut far into the future because I start on Winston and have very little fun on Winston into the Mauga. So we're going to cut into the future, and I'm going to go to a point where I swap Sig for third. And we do this at about the 6-minute mark. So this is going to be an example of the Mauga all inning on me and just using the cage. And my counterplay to this. Ignore my aim on the Reaper here. Okay, we get him eventually. But here comes Mauga. Shield him off. I dance around the shield. Cages. He's trying to kill my Reaper. Look at my health. 725 health. I rock him. Shield back up again. My Reaper does die during this, but like, so what? He got so little value from the cage here. And all I do on this point, literally, my team, to be telling you the truth, I think my team kind of feeds a lot of this, but they are playing Reaper and they have got some disengage abilities. I just sit up here and just poke the enemy team. And like, what are they going to do about me? Rock from distance, nice anti-combo. And literally, I'm just staying here. Like, I'm behind my entire team right now. We got a pick, so I'm like, I'll walk forwards now. We'll kill the enemy team. I did forget to mention in terms of supports that, necessarily feel good against them. Lifeweaver can be pretty good against the Mauga because you can pull people out of the cage and save them. I don't think it's the best support against him, but it is worth a mention. But yeah, I think this is just the best tank. I'm just going to literally spend the entire game poking him out from really, really far away. So we'll watch like another fight or two. Again, the other reason why I'm up here is I'm just trying to deny the soldier this high ground to flank my team. So I see it, he's coming up here. Give him a good old poke, and he's dead. That's all I'm doing. Deny the soldier. I can poke Mauga. 3 rocks. I can't remember what I do with my ult. I think I kind of greed it a little bit at some point to go for big kills. Help my Reaper. Just eat all of that damage. Deny the Mauga healing. The Reaper can heal. I should mention as well with DPS it worked pretty nicely against, with Mauga. If you play Reaper Mauga Rush, the lifesteal stacks from your cardiac overdrive with the Reaper's natural lifesteal. And Reaper kind of becomes unkillable if the enemy team is also playing a Mauga. It's got a huge hitbox, you're getting, it's something stupid like 70% lifesteal. It's just funny to play against. And then you just charge Death Blossoms unbelievably quickly. It does require a little bit of coordination though. Anyway, I really showed that wall who's boss again. I can see the soldier is going up high ground. I'm pinging him. He's actually gone under right now. I'm like, are you still here? No, I hear him. Just poke him. He's like, aha, I'm outsmarting you. I'm like, oh, hello. I'll just poke you again. Gone back main. Mercy reses in the open. Has balls the size of planets. Shred the soldier. And now we've got this advantage. I'm like, I'll just drop. I'll push forwards and get some kills. Help the Genji out. Again, it's so hard to miss the rock. It's harder to miss the rock than to hit it at this point. And I'm going to go back to that high ground. Still have this ult as well. Huge Death Blossom from the Reaper. Bad shield from me. I tried to protect the Reaper there. Okay. I showed you can miss the rock against this guy. They've gone Widow, fantastic. Sig, pretty good into the Widow as well. You kind of get the gist of it now. I'm literally just bullying the enemy team. They've gone Reaper now instead of Soldier as well. I died to Skill Orb. Where's my healing? But it doesn't matter. Like, I'm back pretty quickly. I guess there's 1 minute left. Let's play this out. Because it does get a little bit spicy here, because my team, rather than, pulling backwards, goes in again. My Reaper dies on the front line into Mauga Reaper. I see the cage. I tried to help my team by putting a shield into the cage. I'm like, okay, you're going to do this. I'm going to kill your Widow. Nice aim me. Doesn't matter. And now I just go die cart. I'm like, I'll wait for my team to respawn. Just stay here as long as I can. Perfect. Look at this now, my entire team is respawned again. We're in a 4v4 situation. If you're in a fight that you know you're going to lose, just try and get a pick, right? And then stop the objective. Nice work from a Genji, nice work from a Reaper, and this is now just game. Nice work me, nice work team. All without any coordination, so I'm pretty content with that. Let's go to Colosseo now, which is this one. And this was a matchup where I tried to go out on Hog first and basically have absolutely zero fun on the Roadhog. I do pump out a lot of damage, but it's like the Mauga is out damaging me and I needed to help my team eventually. So I put it in the trash can and give them a tank that's going to help them a little bit. It's actually a pretty rough start this as well. Run, push. We do a pretty good push with Roadhog, thanks to some picks. But this is just the example. Mauga gets up close. I see he uses his overdrive, put a shield down, shield dance. Poke him at range. He's getting close to me. I'm just going into crossarm mode. I'm hiding. And while this is going on, and by the way, we are going to lose this fight. My team is fighting the rest of them. I'm giving my team this 4v4 situation. And I'm just baiting all the Mauga's cooldowns onto me. I think that's good enough. I didn't even mention the slow ability for Ramattra. Pretty nice. Again, deny him healing and we shred him. They did get the checkpoint, but we're going to win the fight now, right? So we just need to do a little bit of cleanup here. Let me push this forwards a little bit. Again, this is the nice advantage of Ram. I can outpoke Mauga, right? So I'm just keeping my distance right now. Literally just poke the Mauga. Stop him from burning my allies. Stop him from burning me. My Reaper goes close, so I follow him. The Ana's going to make a huge outplay here. I was just about to put the shield up, which would have maybe kept my team alive in the cage. It's too late at this point. The combined cage with a bunch of ults here. I decide to just get a pick on the back line, and then I get ulted by the Illari. I'm like, cheers. I picked one of your supports. We were going to lose the fight anyway, and I ate another ultimate on the way out. Win, win, win. Let me just back this one up a second. I should really change the times on this. So again, this is going to be more of the same. I'm going to just try and bait Mauga to attack me. Bit of an int from me just jumping down here. I probably should have just stayed on the high ground for a little bit longer and poked him from there. You can also stop the cart from this top high ground, so... but instead I threw my E down and I was like, I'll frontline against the Mauga. Nice ult from the Hanzo. And now I can go time. There's no Mauga. I can use this aggressively. Tracer blinks into a wall here. And then we're not going to talk about this moment. I'm not talking to my team, but I'm like, team, this is all the squishies. I've got my ultimate, so spoilers, I'm going to ult here. I'm going to skip it. I pop my ult here and just get ultimately just giga, like, strung around. So I'm like trying to chase a Sojourn and she eventually gets, you know, her jump away. Anna sleeps me. The other one is, who's the other hero that's hiding over here? Oh, it's an Illari. The Illari boosts me back. And to cut a long story short, I die through ultimate. And I do a little bit of a feed. But, and I'm just gonna, just out of my own interest. Out of my own interest. We're team. Like, we're team. I thought at this point the team was like following me through the underground, but clearly they had other ideas. Actually, we got picked as well. We lost the Mercy, so that's a little bit on me. There we go. Alright, so we go back to this neutral situation. I'm just poking the Ana here. Ana's being left on cart. I'm like, I'm going to kill this Ana because my team has already died. Get her! No! I missed 2 punches and then died. This was at the stage of the game where I was like, we might lose this one. They're like pushing into us and we're having a pretty miserable time. Alright, this is just simply Death Blossom. Again, though, the cage fight, which is probably what's going to cost them the game. And I'm like, look at me. Look at me. Shield up. And he killed no one in the cage. Now, will a better Mauga do that? No, they will just turn around and look at the Mercies also in the cage and kill the Mercy instead. But I tried my best. And when people started to, like, you know, recognize I was doing this and tried to ignore me, I would make it so that they couldn't ignore me. I just run in front of them and start power blocking again. I think I do a little feed here as well, if I'm going to be honest with you, but I'm getting a little bit tilted at my team. We get to a situation right now, so I recognize that Mauga has used his overdrive early. I shield him off so that he can't heal me. I give him the slow. My slow is not great here. And I'm like, he has no cooldowns, kill the Ana. The Ana is 1, gets the mini, and I get shredded. I'm like, team, come on! The Hand is like taking an ego 1v1. Look how low the supports were here. The Ana does die for the cause eventually, but I'm like, go and get them. They've used all the cooldowns. The Ana is literally can't do anything but look at the Mauga here. But I should have recognized that I couldn't get her. I should have backed up eventually when she got towards the mini. To be fair, though, if I killed the Ana there, I think it would have been worth it. It still stops them recontesting with a full comp. And actually, my team does go on to win this fight, so... Oh no, they lose the fight, never mind. Never mind. Again, look at this. The Ana is pocketing me, I'll appreciate that. Just use all your abilities on me, and I was still like 600 health. Completely fine. And things are looking a little bit spicy now. But you're going to see the screen at the... You've probably seen the screen, sorry, when I did the replay thing, so you know we win this game. We have an unbelievable fight towards the end. So again, just poke them away. Make the Mauga slow. He's already a ploddy hero when he's shooting his guns. Junkrat gets a very skillful kill. Junkrat gets another skillful kill. And now I'm just going to bait all the cooldowns, put down the shields, slow him. I get nanoed surprisingly, and I'm like, alright, fuck you. Mauga, you can't peel me off, can you? The Mauga's doing everything he can to peel me here, and he just can't do it. Stop the Junkrat escaping, we get the checkpoint, and now we're in final fight territory. I think that was kind of an example. I know we use Ram here, but if you're going to play dive, I think that's kind of how you have to play it. Pick a target, all in the target. What can Mauga do? Mauga charged at me, which doesn't do much damage unless he hits you. And it's kind of like, you know, it's a pretty hard stun, I suppose. It's a little bit of a stun, but he can't stun you all, right? And then you bait him, right? You just run away from him, and he can't peel you off. Like, he literally couldn't do anything to me then. Sure, it was Nano Ramattra. There's not a lot of heroes can do stuff with that, but Mauga especially, no shield. And his heal ability is also somewhat countered by Nano because it gives you damage reduction, right? Anyway, again, I'm just poking from range here. And I'm forced to mano the Mauga here. Reaper gets a big Death Blossom, but this is now a 3v thingy. The Cagel is wasted, but I still put my shield in front of the cage to protect damage from my team. And I'm like, I'm just going to live here. Stop. Don't get burnt is my goal here. Miss every shot on the Ana. Kill the Junkrat, though. And I'm just like, I'm just going to stay alive. Keep the shield up. I'm kind of acutely aware that the Mauga is still towards my left somewhere, so I'm trying to shield off both the front and the left. Both supports on cart. I can't really out-damage him. It's like, just stay alive. Trust your team. Hanzo goes crazy again. I'm going to mano the Mauga. I think Hanzo gets nanoed rather than me. I'm a little bit salty about that. I'm like, I have to stay on the cart. But I think this was the great example of, like, I'm helping my team. The shields were helping at all points in that. I can mitigate some of the Mauga effectiveness. And when the fight sort of devolved at the end, I will admit, I think if the Mauga had better target focus, and that's probably the skill check for Mauga, is your accuracy and your target focus. They should have killed Ana, who was like 1 health at one point in that, and didn't. We probably lose that fight at the end, but I can at least sit in the front line with the Mauga, and I don't think there's many tanks that can do that. Probably only, in fact, Sigma and Ramattra. Zarya can do it to some degree, but once you lose your bubbles, you're screwed. And Reinhardt, once you lose your shield, you're screwed. Anyway, one final game I just want to show, and this is me playing Junker Queen, which is going to be a sight to behold. I'm not particularly good at Junker Queen, but even I found value into Mauga. And some of this is just going to be Operation Ignore the Mauga. I'm just going to take this a little bit into the future. Spoilers, we win the first fight through our opponent team just getting picked by random abilities. And this is the second fight. So the soldier will come too far forwards here, but they're like, oh, we're 5v4. Excellent knife from me. Should have just shot them. I don't know why I didn't, or just knifed them. But I'm going to spend this game trying to target specifically the soldier and the Ana. Because I mean, soldier does have a movement ability, you know, it's his run. But I feel like I can pressure him with the knife. Like, if I knife him, I can run on him and kill him. And then I think I can just run on and kill basically when I want to, but especially when the sleep dart is down. Everyone else, I can't really run onto. Like, the Sombra always gets away. The Kiriko can always teleport away. And in the meantime of me doing this, I just poke the Mauga to get ultimate. And I keep axing the Mauga and knifing the Mauga whenever I can, just to give me the bloodthirst trait to keep me healing. And I think at the end of this game I have like 3k healing or something. So again, the Ana, I think, should use the cooldowns. Knife Mauga, still at 450 health. Right, this is a situation I don't want to be in. Give me some health. Health. Anti him, he can't heal anymore. Now I'll take a 1v1 with you. Health me, shred him. Like, Junker Queen is kind of awkward from the Mauga. Again, better Mauga players will have better aim and will shred me probably a lot quicker. But similarly, better Junk Queens will have better ADS strafing, so they'll be able to mitigate the damage just by dodging. But let's say I'm just using the Mauga as an ult battery. I built my ult before the Mauga did, and I think the cage fight from Mauga is one of the faster building ults in the game. What I will say about Junk Queen, though, is when you get into the cage fight, unless the entire enemy team's in there with you, you don't have a lot of mitigation for it. It's kind of like a fight-losing ability for the Queen. You don't get your movement ability, so I don't believe she can shout. And just the healing of the Mauga isn't enough. Anyway, poke, poke, poke. Perfect from our team. Anti-EMP'd. I have the utmost respect. We're going off topic now. Or Bill Cypher there. And I think they're actually a GM player. If I remember rightly, they have the GM moniker, at least, on the name tag. I'll actually go through the game records of these games at the end as well. The Mauga is completely out of position. They're like, I'm going to get the cage fight in a moment. Immediately, Silas, sleep, anti-EMP. Only EMP'd one person, but look at their team comp. They have no frontline anymore, and I can just charge whenever I want to onto a target. I did kind of waste the shout a little bit here. I tried to kill the Sombra, but she has TP up, so she just TPs away. But yeah, I have the utmost respect to people that EMP or Graviton Surge, just a single target. If you kill that target and it guarantees it, it is well worth. What I don't respect is when the fight is one that may ult no one, but that's fine. I recognise the soldier is going on my team. I do a shout here to save the Ana. Spoilers for the future, we're about to lose a fight. But it's a well worth fight to lose. Sometimes in Overwatch there are fights you just should lose. And this will be one of them. That's my fault to some degree. I was a little bit tilted. I got nanoed there because I wasn't expecting it, but it was quick play, so we weren't coming. So I don't really blame the Ana. I think she thought I was going to hit the axe swing, which I should have done, and I would have done big damage off it. But it doesn't matter. At the very least, we used nano, and the enemy team pops everything. We got EMP'd, visored, nanoed, Karika ulted. The Mauga's going to cage in a moment. Yeah, it's like, alright, that's fine. You use 5 ults, we use 1 little nano. Deal. It's the greatest deal in the history of deals. Soldier here, I don't know what he's doing. Inting, I guess. But this is kind of my example of what we can do with Queen right now. Let me just scroll this back just a little moment. So, the soldier, I'll admit, it was kind of daydreaming right now. But I recognise in this comp, I don't want to fight the Mauga particularly. I don't want to frontline against him. So I'm going to pick off people that aren't the Mauga. I think this is what Junk Queen will excel at, and why I think Junk Queen is going to be very strong. I should have killed this guy without the axe. I don't know why I keep axe swinging people off the pole. But the Mauga has decided to play cart. I'm like, okay, I won't play cart then. I will just poke from up here. I'll contest this high ground. I'll give this high ground to my heroes that like it. Eventually, my Mei gets a wall off, I believe, and I go, oh, I'll drop for the wall. There you go. And now our front line. You look at my health. I am getting pocketed, but now we get the over health. Just keep knifing them. Kitsune, you're dead. We don't talk about that one. That was a movement ability ultimate. I wanted to catch people off. Wait for shout. My Mei lands on me here. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I think my Mei lands on me again with the ice block, and yeah. It's like, Mei, please stop. And now we're going to push forwards again. And I'm literally just going to do this for the rest of the game, so I'm not going to do this too much more. Just keep knifing the Mauga, get the lifesteal off him. This is actually a fight where we bullied the Mauga. He was out of position, and we just picked people off. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Anyway, if I go back through these games, let's go in reverse order now for the game reports. I played Junk Queen the entire game on this one, I think, and I healed 2.2k healing. I definitely could have done more healing. 9.4k damage was pretty good. The Mauga, not so much. Died 10 times that game. He was continuously being antied. He was getting, you know, blizzarded. and he was getting antied from me as well. And he got EMP'd a few times, so not a fun time for the Mauga. The the SIG game on Dorado, I played Winston for half of this game, mitigated 10.8k damage, and I'm telling you, most of that was Sigma. I only did 5k damage this game. I literally just held an angle, stopped the soldier taking it, and then just kept my team alive with my abilities. That's all I needed to do to win this game. I didn't really need to carry it at all. Just used my abilities, enabled my Reaper to do some insane damage, enabled my Genji to do damage, tried to keep my Ana alive. She did pretty good damage, 4.4k damage on Ana. That's not insignificant. That's more than like the Zen Life Weaver did on their team. And then finally, going to the... What was the last one? It was... Wait, did I do Colosseo first? Am I dumb? No, I didn't. So this was the Colosseo game. I actually got a better one, but sadly it's gone off my replay viewer where I had... The enemy Mauga had 13k damage and I had 13k mitigated, and it was literally like the 1v1 perfect. I did play Roadhog here, so I have a little bit of healing stats as well. And I think this is the reason why they have 11k damage and I have 8.9 mitigated. But trust me, this mitigation stat is almost entirely Mauga damage. Anyway, that's going to do it for this little video. Mauga is dropping into rank today. This is kind of the reason why I wanted to do this. So, quick TLDR, I would recommend if you're playing tank to play Sigma into him if you have no coordination. If you have a team coordinator and you're stacking, Junker Queen I think is a really fun time, and just like ignore him and then ante-him with your ult and ante-him with an Ana afterwards. And you can make his life pretty much a misery. DPS that are good with him, I think you can get value from playing a Rush comp. You can get advantage from playing Poke comp. So if you play stuff like Sojourn, Reaper, Mei, you're going to be pretty happy with all of those. And in supports, I think you want to put Ana into your team comp and put your gun up his backside and just keep firing until the enemy team goes down. In terms of heroes that are not particularly good versus him or with him, I think Mercy's not great versus or with him. I think you can get away of playing a support against him being Life Weaver, as I mentioned a little bit later on. You can pull people out of the cage, you can do some big healing to counteract the big damage. Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid thing. If you pick something like... It kind of depends. If you're playing Mauga, you probably want the Hog Special, which is Ana Kiriko. But you could probably, for any other time, get away with Ana Life Weaver, which is a nice little area to find Life Weaver in. Maybe he's the counter to Mauga. And then DPS against him, I would highly recommend you playing Sojourn. You can just get Rail on cooldown, and you will have stats like a Overwatch League Pro. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, why don't leave a like and subscribe. Everything helps me out. And hopefully next time we'll do some actual gameplay footage and I won't be dying. Goodbye.